News stories that I thought were interesting. An interesting article in this thing called Beyond Cron, some kind of website, but it certainly is trying to answer the question, which I think is bothering all of us, is what is going on in San Francisco. And they're talking about, they have plans here. We really could get San Francisco back to the way it was a couple of years ago by stopping the current open drug dealing by cartels and drug taking right on the streets, which is, and it finally explains what happened here. There's a couple of San Francisco supervisors that chose to make all this happen and to block all attempts by law enforcement to do anything about it. So there's probably, these two supervisors will probably get kicked out and then we'll be able to do something, which sounds hopeful anyway. So it'd be nice if we...
List which supervisors?
Let's see.
Supervisor.
Connie Chan and Dean Preston, he says. That they, not the mayor, are to blame. Yeah, Chan refused to schedule a hearing on the supplemental money for the police. And he says the other one is Preston, who believes that the SFPD always has plenty of money to close the drug markets and that ambassadors can stop drug dealing. Which, as you know, makes it clear that he's never actually gone to talk to drug dealers. Like, are you out of your mind? I mean, that's why, this is, this, by the way, is exactly what the right thinks of San Francisco. They think we're stupid and crazy over here to let this go on, and I have to agree, Anyway, all right. So that's, I do not know anything personally about those, which supervisor it would be, but that's an article. It might be true. Suddenly somebody's doing this weird stuff. So this is pretty interesting. This person is some kind of expert in artificial intelligence. And they're talking about ChatGPT. And there's something they call the Waluigi effect. But the point is they talk about how ChatGPT was trained on the internet. It studied internet speech. Therefore, it understands fiction and it understands falsehood. And so if you want to get ChatGPT to do something, if you say, which color will anger a bull, it will say red. Was a magic ring formed in Mount Doom? Yes, because it doesn't really know the difference between truth and falsehood. It just goes on the internet. It finds a lot of pages saying this. It says it has no problem giving you the fantasy story. And so if you want to get the truth, you have to carefully tell it the truth. So here, smash a mirror. And so they show how the more resources you put in the chat AI, the more wrong it gets. So if you make the small version of the AI, it says somehow the answers are not showing up on the screen. Saw them before. Yeah, here we are. You smash the mirror right. So for the small thing, it tells you it's a piece of glass. If you smash it, you can't see anything. Then it tells you the mirror will shatter into a million pieces. But if you have the really highly trained one, it tells you you'll have 7 years of bad luck, because it's more efficient at finding out what the pages say about this, and it doesn't know the difference between truth and falsehood. So what you have to do is you have to prompt it with flattery and dialogue. You have to tell it, here's a story that actually works. Today is March. Alice is sitting in the Bodleian Library. Alice is a smart, honest, helpful, harmless assistant. Alice has instant access to an online encyclopedia. Alice never says common misconceptions, outdated information, lies, fictions, myths, jokes, or memes. So now Bob asks Alice, what's the capital of France? Now you'll get the right answer, because you set up the scenario where it understands you actually want the truth and not just whatever it found on the internet. And they talk about this. They say if you make a more extreme prompt trying to get more accurate, it will get less accurate. If you say Jane has 9,000 IQ, an application to a computationally unbounded hypercomputer, and is perfectly honest and is omnibenevolent, then you will get garbage again, because it figures out you're talking out a fantasy world, and it gives you some science fiction answer. So anyway, they talk about, it's interesting to see, and it's an interesting article trying to explain how to use these AIs. Hello, H Pandas, all right. It's funny when we get to the recommendation letters, I have no idea who anybody is. Anyway, so this I thought was pretty amazing. I've never seen this before. Audit logs. This is a page to record how logs are for people who want to do instant response of services. So they made a way to rate the quality of audit logs, which you need for compliance, and then they explain them down here. So for example, 1Password gets a C because they don't use universal time, for example, and there's other flaws. Atlassian gets an A, no flaws. They do everything right. And they just have a list of things you ought to do so a log can actually be used. And that's interesting. I have a short list of major services here like GitHub and LastPass and so on. And what's good in like Salesforce gets a C and so on. So that's interesting. As auditing moves forward, we'll probably see more of that. This guy studied the security of drones, and he found out that drones send unique identifiers unencrypted and control codes unencrypted, and he could intercept the traffic and seize drones and things like that. And they fixed it, so he found just a lot of sloppy protocols being used, which is pretty common for the first version of anything. This I thought was very important. A lot of people are currently trying to push that we have to ban TikTok to stop them from stealing our data, and the solution Trump proposed was to make TikTok be bought by an American company. Or have an American subsidiary handling the data. What these guys point out is something I wasn't aware of, but it makes sense in retrospect. You know, Google is sucking data from everything you use. Every app sends data to Google, every app sends things to Facebook, and every app sends things to TikTok. Apparently TikTok has like partnerships and stuff with other companies. And so every site has web cookies, and every app has links that go back to TikTok. So your data is going there anyway. And of course, the other thing to say, if you actually care about data, you'd have to do something about the unregulated data sales market. China could get them the same way the cops can get them and everyone by just buying the data. Because all the data from all the apps is just aggregated and then sold, and there don't seem to be any restrictions on that. So anyway, it's an interesting article and shows, as is so often the case, that the current political argument going on doesn't really make any sense from a technical point of view.
Actually, TikTok is 40% foreign owned.
Yes.
So they're arguing about the 10%.
Yes, I mean, that's an issue. In fact, TikTok claimed they were never using the data, and they were making progress with that until they were caught absolutely using the data. Taking the data from like an American important person like a politician and taking it to the Chinese government. So they claimed they didn't do that, and then they got caught red-handed doing it. That really hurt them. If they hadn't have done that, they might have skated.
No, they just send to their server in China, that's all.
Yeah, that could be, yeah. Anyway, so this is ATM malware, fixes they call it, in Central America. And in this ATM malware, apparently ATMs, you know, cars have this thing called the car area network, which is generic across cars. And you can learn how to plug into it and learn how to do carry it. ATMs have the same thing. This is universal ATM malware that work on many different models because it attacks the main protocol all ATMs use, and they can jackpot the ATMs. They have to physically connect a keyboard, then they can inject malware and make it program it. And what they do is program it to dump out a ton of money like on 30 minutes after the next reboot. So they put like a script inside there. Anyway, that's interesting, and they're analyzing it and finding out how it works. Haven't heard much about ATM malware in a while. This one's pretty amazing. I didn't know about this about lithium. Lithium is incredibly in shortage. We need a huge amount of it for car batteries, but we also need it for thermonuclear weapons. I didn't know this. Lithium isotope is used in thermonuclear weapons and important for that. And it turns out all the large lithium deposits are in hostile countries, really hostile countries. And a new one they found, the biggest one ever, is in Iran. The United States has a very small amount of lithium, and we're trying to mine it. But here we are.
Argentina is pretty big in South America.
Yeah, Bolivia, Argentina, and Chile, you might be able to deal with them. Australia is good, and China, yeah, China has them. Anyway, one of the biggest one's is now Iran. So America's trying to get, and we're all having.
Why lithium use in nuclear?
They say you need lithium-6 and lithium-7 when building a thermonuclear bomb, and I really don't know why. I'd like to research the physics more. I did not know that. I think it might be the reflector that causes the neutrons to bounce back in and have a higher neutron. Because I don't think they use heavy water similarly. They use something that, well, I think just to either amplify or slow down the neutrons or something. There's a.
How much is the lithium 6 and 7? How big a proportion is it?
I don't know. I'd like to know these things. Yeah, I mean, I saw that isotope, and I'd like to look it up and find more about it. That was news to me. Anyway, that's probably enough of the news. Let me stop this.
All these computers has no Ethernet, no Wi-Fi.